Are you a writer looking for an audience? Well, you're not alone. Several years ago, about 1997, the Mahopac Public Library decided that what they wanted to do was create a writing workshop. They wanted to open their doors to writers. What would happen is someone would lead the group, and the participants would bring in newspaper articles, stories, poems, memoirs, whatever it was they were working on. Then the idea would be that we'd sit around the table, read aloud, and let the people in the group comment on the work that was brought to the table. Well, the result was amazing. We were hoping that the workshop would run 5, 6, 7 times. Well, that workshop has been running from 1997 until today. Every single Thursday at the Mahopac Public Library from 7 to 9, a group of writers meet. And what's very interesting is not only do they meet, but they share what they write during the week. They make changes in some of their writing. The result has been amazing. And I've watched writers grow in this workshop. One writer in particular did some amazing growing. We had a young man who came to the workshop reluctant to write. Afraid, nervous. Must have called me about 6 times in 1 week saying, listen, should I share this? Should I share this? Should I share this? Well, that writer stayed with us from 1998 until now. And amazingly, that writer who was so afraid to even write one poem actually wrote a book. The book is a collection of short stories that will blow you away. Short stories with amazing endings, amazing beginnings, some of them 1 page long. 1 page long. Yet, rising action, climax, conclusion, stories that members of the group talk about for weeks. And he's made changes. Some he's almost changed completely. He has now gained a confidence that I didn't think was going to happen, because this particular writer was also fighting something else. He had a condition that he had to try to work through. Well, that writer is going to talk to you about that condition. He's going to talk to you about his progress in writing. You're going to hear some amazing things today that have occurred over the past number of years. My name is Vin Dacquino. Our guest today is Joe Chiudina. Joe, let's talk writing. Good to have you here.
Good to be here.
Joe, talk to me. You came to us all the way back in
98,
about 98. When you came, what gave you the courage to come into that room?
Well, I remember it was the Mahopac Firehouse was having a carnival, and a friend of mine told me about the group, and I went to the library with a friend, and unfortunately the carnival, the roads were all shut down, so people couldn't arrive at the library, and I ended up reading my story, reading what I had, and Andy, the guy who works at the library, gave me a lot of good constructive criticism, and I really was looking forward to joining this group, so I was kind of frustrated that nobody was there. But other than that, that's...
Now, I remember you were pretty scared about it, and you asked me a dozen times, is this poem good? Is this poem good? Should I read it? Should I share it with the group? And if I'm not mistaken, I think you also shared it the next week when more people came.
I might have, yeah. I think either I read the same thing or I read a different part of the same book, the same story.
Joe, let me ask you, did you bring that poem?
No, I didn't bring that story, but I did bring a poem.
Okay, and this is an early poem.
Yes.
From back in the 90s.
Yep.
And you have that with you?
Yes, I do.
Can you share that?
Of course. It's titled, "We See What Is Not There." Body dysmorphic parasites feed upon our conscious minds, Turning our souls inside out, we have stared far too long into this field of daisies. We see what is not there. Locked behind doors, alone in our beds, sleep is the only salvation from this flawed existence. We see what is not there. We are not alone in this field of daisies. Hand in hand we have each other. You would notice this if only you were to look to your side. You would see me struggling too. This disease has no mercy, blinding our eyes from what lies before us. A field of daisies, which in our vulnerable minds has become a vision of hell.
Joe, you have a condition. What is that condition?
OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder.
So you've been suffering with that for a long time.
Oh yeah. Maybe.
And this isn't just a passing thing where you want to make sure that your book is straight in front of you. This is really a compulsive disorder that you've been suffering with. Can you tell me just a little bit about what you've gone through?
Sure. I was pretty much diagnosed OCD after high school when I started working. And it just felt like all I had. You know, I mean, I watched other people, my other kids at work, and they had girlfriends, they had this going on, and they were with friends, and I just needed something to hold up over them. I needed to be above average. And if I wasn't really thinking about inner beauty at the time or inner self. It was just all physical.
And you just felt that you were not adequate, and it bothered you all the time?
Yes, it interfered with my life. I talked to my mother a lot about it. I must have asked her questions, the same questions, 100 times a day. And it was just horrible, and it was just terrible.
So now one of the things that I tell writers is that writing could be the most amazing therapy a person can have, because it gives you a chance to make contact with your inner self. Now, I know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask you anyway. Joe, have you made contact with the inner self through your writing?
Yes, I have. I think of it as like turning my misery into art so people can read it and take it in. And I'm doing something with it. And at the same time, I guess I'm exercising it for myself.
Now, I know that your early poems reflect some of that pain. Now, do you have any other works from the beginning that kind of reflect the OCD?
I do, but I don't have them. I don't have them memorized.
Now, from this, I noticed that you started to get a little lighter, and the group just absolutely fell in love with your puzzle poetry.
Yes.
Can you tell me a little bit about this puzzle poetry that you worked with?
Okay, puzzle poetry is like phonetics. It's based on phonetics, and what happens is you look at the word. You don't go by what the words look like. You go by how they sound. One word might be two words actually, by the way, if you listen to the sound of them. And I'm thinking of maybe in the future putting a book out for the puzzle poetry.
With all of these puzzle poems. Now, I think we have, we may have a puzzle poem that we can put up on the screen.
Yes, we do.
But the idea of the puzzle poetry is that it's not always what it seems to be. It takes a little while to look at it, figure it all out. Now, one of them, I believe, can you just tell us about it, how the words are placed?
Sure.
The first line was
picnic.
Okay.
Picnic arose and he'll blossom. Now, if you look at the puzzle, the puzzle part of it, picnic is spelled P-I-C-N-I-C, P-I-C-N-I-C, and then the next word is spelled arose, as in like he arose from the grave.
Okay.
So that's A-R-O-S-E.
Right.
End is kind of an easy one.
Just the letter
yeah,
N,
just
right?
put the N. Heal.
H-E-A-L, right?
Right. H-E. Heal. I spelled it. It's in puzzle form. It's H-E-A-L.
Right.
And blossom is blah, as in B-L-A-H.
Right.
And some is
S-O-M-E.
S-O-M-E. Yep.
Right. And when you first look at it, those are the words you see.
Yes.
But then, after you take your time and you look at it very carefully, you realize that what it really is saying is...
Picnic a rose and he'll blossom.
Picnic a rose and he'll blossom.
Exactly.
Great. And you've done many of these.
Yes.
And I remember the group saying over and over again, give us more, give us more. Now, about how many of these do you have?
I don't know. Maybe around 50, 40.
Time for a book, yeah? Yeah. I'd love to see a collection of these. I think you've done a wonderful job with the puzzle poetry. And then, from puzzle poetry, where'd you go, Joe?
From puzzle poetry, I went to, I guess I went to the short stories, the flashes.
Stories. Your short stories are amazing. They're a little taste of O. Henry, but I remember years ago when I was taking classes on writing, one of the things that they talked about were Yaleys. And that were these short poems from Yale that were like 1 page long. Well, I discourage people from doing that only because they don't realize how difficult it is to capture everything in a story. Plot, character, setting, theme, and tone in 1 page. Nearly impossible, but not for you. And I just could not believe how much you were able to get into one story. I've also teased you many times. What did I tell you about your stories? About the nights and the dreams? What kind of dreams?
Oh, pepperoni dreams.
Pepperoni dreams. And I used to tease you and say, Joe, don't eat pepperoni at night. Your stories scare me half to death. And some of them were pretty spooky because you have some central themes in your short stories. What are those themes, Joe?
Well, they're not very nice subjects. I talk about suicide and death, bullying, innocence lost. But what I do is, especially for the suicide and death ones, I give them tongue-in-cheek. I make them a little funny so people don't, because I know people think that's a dark subject. So I kind of put a twist into it. I make it funny, and it just always came easier for me, those stories, the negative things, suicide and death.
Now, I know that... I forget what you call him. Is it Old Man Death, or he shows up a lot in a lot of your stories? What do you call him? Do you call him Death?
I call him Death.
Death.
Yeah, he usually has a jacket and tie on, but yeah, I call him Death.
and he shows up and in strange times, and he comes to pick up people to take them to the beyond.
Right.
But as you say, you have that little twist in there. Sometimes we're very surprised by the appearance of Old Man Death. Sometimes we know that exactly who he is and why he's there. Now, do you have anything else, any of those stories to share?
Actually, they're right there in the book.
Wait. After a number of years, and I mean after at least 10 years, Joe got the courage to bring his stories and his feelings into print. This was monumental because Joe, who absolutely feared putting himself out there, so cautious about everything he said and everything he did, brought this book out in the open. And many of these stories are amazing. I'm going to prove that to you by asking Joe to share one of those.
Sure. Let's see. Okay.
Now, in addition to these short stories that he's looking through, Joe has also crossed another amazing bridge, and we're going to be talking about where he's gone now. He started with the various poems, then he went to puzzle poetry, then he went to short stories, and now he's in the middle of another project that we'll talk about in a little bit. Did you find the story?
Yes, I did.
Okay, let's do it.
Okay, it's called The Right Place, The Right Time. I sat on the curb, watching the traffic go by. I hadn't had a roof over my head for as long as I could remember. My pockets contained nothing but lint, and my life had reached a dead end. Pedestrians gave me dirty looks. Those with children pulled their young ones closer. I couldn't blame them. Even in a suit and tie, I stank something fierce. My unshaven face didn't help matters. I spotted the man in the Hawaiian shirt. I knew his face at the palm of my hand, but couldn't place where I'd seen him. He started across the busy street. He never saw it coming. The driver was too late on the brakes. There was a hard thump as the car sent Mr. Hawaiian Shirt sailing through the air, landing in a bundle on the street. A woman screamed and someone yelled for an ambulance. The driver got out of the car. He looked like he wanted to zip away in every direction, but he was rooted to the spot. I raced over to the unfortunate victim. True, I was nothing to look at, and I was a billion years away from smelling like a rose, but my mother raised me right. I couldn't just let the poor guy croak. Am I going to die? Is death here? I don't see him anywhere. He coughed up blood and stared at me with questioning eyes. He'd easily broken several ribs, and possibly suffered a punctured lung. And where was the damn ambulance, anyway? Suddenly, I was struck with an idea. I'm death, I lied. I'm not ready to escort you to the afterlife just yet. The boss doesn't require your attendance at this time, and neither do I. You're going to pull through this. He kept fading in and out of consciousness. You smell bad, and you look terrible. That's because I just escorted a soul to hell. Did you ever smell a rotten head of lettuce? That's what hell smells like. Now you just hold on there. The ambulance will be here soon enough. He reached towards his chest, but his hand was too weak to complete the long journey. I have something for you. It's tucked away, in my breast pocket, behind my gold pen. Just then I was able to place a name to the face. Bernie Michaels. I'd seen him on The Tonight Show. He was a hot-shot movie producer, the kind who always had a fat cigar parked in the corner of his mouth. The business card that I retrieved from his breast pocket confirmed the fact. The card was eggshell white. There was a phone number and the logo of a film company. Why are you doing this for me? Call that number and tell him that Bernie Michaels found you. You're a hell of an actor. I think you're going to go far. He smiled a grin of stolen triumph. But I saw through your act. What gave me away? I replied. The real death is behind you.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing. And that's just one of many amazing stories that Joe has to share. Some are about death, some are about life. Some of them reflect the fears and emotions that Joe has to share with his readers. Now, I am so pleased to tell you that Joe has crossed the new bridge and he is in the middle of a new project. Tell us about it, Joe.
It's a memoir about my OCD, living with OCD, and I'm dating all the way and going all the way back to the 90s or early mid 90s, and it's going to be all about how I dealt with it and the hell that I lived through and the hell that I put my mother through and my family members and how they behaved around me, and it's just hopefully I'll have it pretty soon.
Joe, are you ready to share some of that?
Yes, I am.
Okay, what would you like to share?
I got a little bit here.
Now this is chapter 3?
Well, it's a working chapter.
Okay.
So it's chapter 3.
All right. So give us a little taste of what this memoir, do you have a working title for it?
I'm not sure yet.
Okay. Okay. But it is memoir.
Yes.
Some of your experiences with OCD. Give us a taste of what this is going to sound like.
Okay. My days at Search for Change, the halfway house, which was my current address, were finished. I'd given up searching, and tonight was the last night that I'd have to wrestle with my thoughts. Before heading out to my self-execution and putting Search for Change behind me, I withdrew the knife from under my pillow and got in my car and drove. My headlights stabbed the night as I took winding road after winding road to the town that I grew up in. It was the park where I was headed. The pain was there, but it felt numb, like the way a mouth feels after a shot of Novocaine. I had enough of living like a hollow bunny, with nothing inside but a burning question mark. I could no longer trust mirrors. I could no longer see myself. The people around me had become my mirrors. Was I above average in the looks department? What was the answer? Yes, no, maybe so, didn't work for me. It had to be concrete. It had to be the answer I needed to hear. My therapist was the grandest mirror of them all, and tonight even he had lost his temper and hung up on me. I reached the park and parked my car in the gravel parking lot. It was freezing and snow covered the ground. The windows were fogged up. The plan, my release from the hell that I was living, was to slash my wrists and then run out into the woods and die silently and alone.
Whoa. That is one powerful piece. You're working through those fears. Inspiration. What writers have inspired you, Joe?
Well...
I see you carrying one writer around an awful lot.
Yes, well, I do read Stephen King.
Yes, you
but
do.
I draw my inspiration more from the old Twilight Zone episodes.
Oh,
yeah.
Interesting.
And O. Henry. And M. Night Shyamalan, he's a movie director. And I get inspiration from them.
Mm-hmm.
So
now, I know you work at least sometime in a movie theater.
Yes.
Movies? Do movies inspire you as well?
Yes, I do. Sometimes the ideas just like go off in my head like explosions. It's funny.
Where do you do your writing?
At the library.
At the library.
Mostly.
So you go to Mahopac Public Library.
Yep.
And you go upstairs in the computer. Do you have a computer of your own?
I had one, and I have a couple lying around, but they're kind of...
And for years, you never had one. Most of your work was done pen and ink?
I would think so. I hate working with pen and ink, though. I'd rather work at the computer, but yes.
Okay. So when did you finally get in touch with the computer? It's only recently,
I think
wasn't it?
my Aunt Pat, she gave one to me, my Uncle Kenny, and that's pretty much how it started. And then I couldn't even have access to the internet, and after that something happened to the computer. And
all right. So now what do you do? How are you doing these memoirs?
I'm going to the library. I might write down notes in a notebook I have, but mainly I work at the library.
So where are you in these memoirs? How close are you?
I'm just starting. This is one of the first things I've written so far.
Now, do you have a sense of where this is all going to go?
I know how it ends, and I know how it's going to be in my mind, but I'm kind of doing it. This is my first memoir, so I'm kind of trying to do the best I can with it, and the group is really helpful.
Joe, is it painful to recall some of these experiences you had in your life?
It's not painful. I would have to say it's almost like it's like an actor slipping into a role that he once played. So I think about it, and I kind of meditate on it, and I just try to go back to those thoughts and how I was feeling and those nights when and I just kind of think about it, and I just let it come out of me.
Has the writing workshop helped you to gain confidence in yourself?
Yes. Yes, they have.
Now, do you set as a goal each week, I have to do this? Because yeah, I know you do. And every week you say, I have to make sure I have something.
Yes.
Joe, I would guess that out of all of those Thursdays for the last 12, 13 years, however many years it is, I think you may have missed 3 or 4 Thursdays that you didn't have something to read. That's amazing. It's amazing. Now, are you keeping all of these things together?
I'm trying to.
You better, because they'll become another one of these. Yes. I expect to see a book on puzzle poetry. I expect to see more of your short stories. I urge you to get a copy of this. How can people get a copy of this book, Joe?
My email address is gentlevoice2@aol.com.
Gentlevoice2, and Gentle Voice is all one word.
Yes.
Gentlevoice2@aol.com.
Yep.
And they can go to that.
Go to that, and
now, if they
take it from there.
If they want to get a copy of the book, if they want an autographed copy of the book, Thursdays, 7 to 9 at the library. You can almost bet that Joe will be at that workshop. And you'll sign a copy for them?
Yes, I will.
Excellent. Joe, the memoirs. You need to keep working at them. We are all looking forward to seeing where this is all going to go. Now, are you going to do some writing besides this, or is now all of your attention going to these memoirs?
No, I might work on my. I had another project, a short story collection, a new one, and I'm kind of
a new one.
Yeah.
What will that be called? Book of Joe 2?
No, I'm thinking of maybe calling it Outside the Box.
Oh, why? Why?
Because my stories aren't
outside the box.
They're outside the box. So
any particular advice for aspiring writers?
Just be honest with yourself. If you have writer's block, just find something you can relax.
How do you get out of writer's block?
I actually exercise. I go to the track, and I'll jog or I'll walk, and I'll do a couple miles, and it just kind of freshens your mind.
Yeah.
It just kind of refreshes it, and you can think more.
And then you return to the library and work again?
Yes.
Now, how often do you go to the library? Daily?
No, my days off from work are Wednesday and Thursday. So you'll see me there on Wednesday or Thursday, and I could be there for like 3 hours writing.
Wow. And when you finish a piece, do you say, done? Or do you have to work it and rework it?
Unfortunately, I got to work it and rework it.
Yeah, but, that's what writing is. You know that, I know that.
Right.
We've done that so many times. Now, have you ever had a piece that was like almost perfect? I remember in Happy Days, the Fonz one time got in front of the mirror, and he looked in the mirror and he got his comb and he went, and decided he wasn't going to touch it. Do you do that? Do you ever have a piece that just fell out perfectly?
Yes. In the beginning, there were some stories that just fell out perfectly, and the twist was there, and I didn't have to go back to it.
Do you get discouraged when the group has comments that are not negative, but they're not 100% into the story that you're doing, or they don't get it? What do? Do you just say, okay, I have to fix it?
Well, I don't mind criticism as long as it's constructive criticism.
Good.
And it'll help me grow, and it'll help me improve my piece.
And do you find that the group does that for you?
Yes, they do.
All right, so my guess is you're going to continue writing.
Yes.
You're going to continue producing good things. We have Book of Joe. Then we have the new book. I'm sorry, what was the title of that?
The memoir?
No, the new poetry book.
Outside the Box.
Outside the Box. And then the memoir, we don't know the title yet, but
right.
It's still in progress.
Yes.
We're hoping for a book on puzzle poetry. So you're keeping on, moving on. It's a good thing. My recommendation is to follow Joe's recommendation. Here is a young man who has gone inside himself. He's fought his fears, and he used writing to do that. Writing is therapy. It's a wonderful way to discover who you are, what you are, and why you are. Joe, I am so proud of where you have come. It's been a long road, but you are living proof that if you believe in yourself, if you care about who you are, and if you believe that you can dig yourself out of the hole, and you've been in the hole, dig yourself out of that hole, you can rise to the top. You have. Joe, I cannot thank you enough for sharing yourself and your work with our viewers. Any last words that you want to share with the group? Should people join workshops?
Yes, they should.
Is it sometimes scary?
It's sometimes scary, but
is it worth it?
It's worth it, and it stings a little bit with the criticism, but it's all helpful in the end.
Well, you heard it from Joe. You heard it from me. Hear it for yourself. If you are a writer, you need to write. If you have something bothering you, get in there. You can be your own self-therapist. Again, Joe, thank you for being with us. Thank you for sharing today. We have other guests waiting, coming from the workshop. You have seen some of those people on the show. You're going to see more. Thank you for being part of Let's Talk.